Hello my friends, it's Nat back with you today for TLC Designs, where if you remember a couple of weeks ago, month ago, can't remember which video it was, I did a little bit of partial die cutting and I talked you through that. We're going to do a little bit more. We're going to change a square die into a rectangle. We're also going to use the Tip Top Fairy Dance. I've brought a 15th of turkey delicious it's not turkey, turtle delicious. So I brought my Big Shot in to give you have a little bit of a look. Generally speaking, you don't need you shouldn't have see how my die is like straight on. You shouldn't do that, but I didn't have much option with it. But what I'm going to do is my Big Shot plates are a little bit curved, so you just need to be wary of that. So I've run it through, but wherever your plate is, that's what's going to cut. So on top of your plate, that's going to cut. So that's why you have a little bit overlapping. So what I've also done is when you put it back together to cut the second half of your die, it fits into the groove. Now the Big Shot plates have a magnetic platform. If you've got that, that's awesome. But it can be, just use your like washi tape or your purple tape to sort of make it stick down. So I'm going to show you this. Do I show you this again? I can't quite remember. Yes, I do. So we're going to do this a second time. Now it's not going to cut through the second layer, so don't stress. Put the die hanging out. I've run it back and forth purely because we've got 2 layers, so I wanted to try and get as much of that cut as possible. You're going to fiddle with it and you're going to feel when it clicks into the groove top and bottom, so where you've already cut it out. Plate's only halfway. Remembering where your plate is, that's where you're going to cut it. So you can see it's perfectly lined up, but I've done this a few times, so make sure you practice before you bring out the big guns and want to do it for something special. Obviously, because we've got the 2 layers, we have to use a knife and just to trim out that second layer. TLC obviously has the daisy frame die, but I wanted daisy frame die, but I wanted this one to have those little flowers. I wanted it to be a little bit different, so we're sort of making like a picture frame. I'm just eyeballing here roughly how much cardstock I'm going to need. I'm going to trim it down with guillotine. I've also got in the Loving Petals square die, you've got the little hearts that you saw me run through, and I've just cut that out of some red cardstock. You do end up with 2 pieces. We're just going to use the small ones in this video, and I've cut out way more. You can see all the bigger ones there. I've cut out way more than I need, but just save them, and then later on if you need something, you've already got a die cut, so it's super simple. Okay, we're going to go down to the nitty gritty here. So as I said, we've got Tip Top Fairy Dance. Now my idea was to have them all together, so it's sort of like a fun ta-da type of photo that they've got hanging up on their wall. I know, I'm a little bit eccentric. I would probably think people would think I am anyway. That was my idea. So we're going to do a bit of masking. Now I've just got some full stick post-it notes, and the problem with the full stick post-it notes, they're not as thin. You do still end up with a little bit of a gap between the 2 images that you're trying to mask, but that's not a big deal. And you will see, I'm just trying to make sure, right there, I'm using a multi-liner pen and just looking at the drawing. Do I get everything right? No. You might catch me later on in the video with this particular one that I'm doing here. It was a bit of a line. I thought it was a wing, but it's clearly, I don't know. I'm still not entirely sure what it is. Looking at that picture, it's a wing, but I don't know what I've done. But it isn't going to matter. So it's all good, my friends. A lot of the colouring, especially the girls' dresses, you're not going to see. You'll see the top half of their dress, but you won't see the bottom half. But that's okay. I'd rather have it all coloured in and not have to come back to tidy up another area. So we've stamped all our little bits and pieces. So with some white cardstock, I've just die cut that square, the Loving Petals square die, because it has this little daisy. I've used way too much sticky tape, but it's okay. We can work through that. Lessons learned, put it that way. So what I'm going to do is just tidy this all up. And if you use less sticky tape or kept hold of your little center of your flowers, and honestly this was the only one that actually did pop out and I needed to make sure it was safe, then you've got no sweat. It's a lot easier than sometimes I do things the hard way. I'm sure you guys are all the same. Sometimes you don't. No, this one isn't the one. Look at that. The one up the top there. That's the one that lost its little century bit. So we're going to use a little bit of multi-matte medium just to glue him down. And I'm just putting it right in the center. So his little petals have a little bit of 3D dimension-y type of thing. This little streamers is from the Tiptoe Fairy Dance. And so we're going to use that. I don't use the sentiments in that. That's where I'm going to grab the Turtlelicious stamp set, and we're going to use the Giggle a Lot. I just wanted something a little bit finer. We're using different distress inks here. They're not a distress inks. They're just some crimson, some ultramarine, some teal. Just different coloured of, just colourful party type of streamers. So I'm just trimming down my cardstock. I just went around the edges, so I'm going to chop her feet off. She won't feel a thing. I will need to trim up a little bits and pieces elsewhere just to make sure it fully fits into my frame. I wanted a little bit more dimension. Do this without before you put the flowers on. I swear to you, I do make life a little bit hard for myself sometimes. But it worked out perfectly. But do yourself a favor, learn from my mistake, and before you put the white flowers on, do this. You know where the flowers are already going to be, so it's not a big problem. So I wanted to give the frame a little bit of a rounded look to it. So we've gone on the inside, on the outside, and sort of try to make the flowers sort of pop out that little bit more. I just wanted you to think about using your dies and the stamps a little bit different. Using dies to change part of what you're doing. You don't have to, if you like the frame, like I like the frame with the daisies, but it was square. So using partial die cutting, you can change that around. Obviously, until they work out how to change a square die into doing a circle, you do have limitations, but I just think outside the box. That's what I wanted to say. So I have my skin color. They're all going to be pretty much the same. They're going to be the E04, E11, E00, and then I will go through with the E000. As I said before, the only real problem that you have with doing masking out images and putting them close together is sometimes trying to figure out what's what. But it's not really going to matter too much. I'm going to bring the stamp set in. You can always have a look at that, just like that, and see what part is what. But no one is really going to know if you colour something, unless it's a face or something. Unless, you know, they're not really going to know what it's meant to be. So just try and sit back and enjoy. Don't stress about what's what, because it's all going to blend in perfectly well. Now, I have missed a couple of spots, like her ear, the little girl on the left. I've missed her ear, but I'll come back to that. It's no good. Can you sort of see where my fingers are? See how there's an extra line there, and I don't know whether I did it. I think I did do it. Don't sweat it. It's all good. So the hair that we're going to use, we're pretty much going to use two colours for the hair, two combinations. We've got E33, 35 and 37. And then I'm going to make the little girl that I'm working on just there a little bit darker at E49, 29 and 39. I'm working that the part of their hair is going to be a little bit darker where the roots are. I'm hoping you can't hear too much noise. You know, the season of life that we're all in, it's not too easy to find a nice quiet area to do voiceovers, so I hope you don't mind. Just working through her colours, and I do constantly go back to the images that are on the packaging that Tammy's provided us with to see what's what and what's where, because we've got a lot going on here. So this is the other girl's hair. I try to keep most of my colours sort of going through. Most of my colours, I think, are at least repeated twice. And so the boy has a blue bow tie, and then the girl on the right hand is going to have a blue dress. So it's repeated so they all sort of have some unity, some flow. The bunny, we're going to do white. I used to have a white bunny when I was a kid, so bunnies are white for me, even though you walk around the streets late as the sun is not quite going down and you see lots of brown bunnies, but my bunny was white. So to me, bunnies are white. That's what. And he had a very, very imaginative name. We called him Snowy. But anyway, the wings, we're going to colour those sort of white as well, but they're going to have a lot of glitter on in the end. So we're just sort of putting a little bit of the shadow in. Just so it pushes them back a little bit so they're behind the little fairies that we've going to work with. And as I said, of course they have to have glitter because they're fairies and they're sparkly. Just working through that. So we've got our C5, our C1, our C3, and I will go down to a C1 and then use a blender to blend that out a little bit. Just rechecking. So my blue for my dress and the bow tie are going to be B39, B24 and B23. So you can use, as I said, you're not going to see her dress, but look at it this way. If you're not too confident of using Copics. You're not too confident of using dresses. Her top is pretty straightforward. The other girl's top is very straightforward because she has no sleeves. Oh, look. Oh, you won't see that little blue waistband there either in the original photo, but think of it as a practice. Okay? What I will sometimes, quite often will do, is if I have an image that is new to me, I will stamp it out. I have a little book. I will stamp it out. If I'm not too sure of where my shadows are going to be, then I will use a mechanical pencil and put my shadows in. So think of it as practice. You're not going to see it, but it's not a waste of your time. It's not even a real waste of your ink, because if you don't practice, you're not going to get better at what you're doing. So giving her dresses a ripple through them is all practice, because you're not going to get it 100% straight off. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. It isn't going to happen. So for her, let's go back to this. For her, their mouths, I am using R29 and C5 for the dark bit. I didn't want it black, but we're just going to use a little bit of C5 for the middle, the depth of their back of their throats. Don't know if that's the right way to say it, but so we've got her dress, we've got her flower on the top, this other little dress, and the boy's t-shirt is going to be red. Possibly, aesthetically speaking, you should sort of have things in threes. So I've got the blue bow tie, I've got the blue dress, I've got the bandana-y, the waistband that you're not going to see, but I've got the blue flowers. See? The red, I don't think I'm going to have. I think I've only got 2 reds. Looking at the card, I've only got 2 reds, but I can't think whether I coloured her waistband. No, that was all white. That's white. So with the greens that I've got, I am using G09 and G05. They're only pretty tall, they're pretty simple, so we're not going to fuss with too much of that. We're going to use some outer bits of some foam mount, because I would rather use all of it than have some little bits and pieces go to waste. We're going to use that to mount up our little image. I'm off camera, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to make sure, just hold it up and make sure it's right. This paper is Dragons in the Winter. It's from that range for TLC Designs, and I will link that over in the description below. What I'm also going to do is I'll leave a little, it's my first time trying to do it, but I'm going to try and leave a little iCard up there for you to link over to another colouring video, so you can check that out as well. Colouring is a little bit of my thing. That's what I love to do. That's my happy place. That's all fun and games. This, I have just put it onto a piece of cardstock to make it a little bit stronger. But this is where I sort of go, I'm not so sure about this. I want to do things a little bit different than that. What I am going to end up doing, so I've trimmed this down, my normal measurements. I don't know what this is in inches, I'm sorry, because Australian cards are different sizing. Our cards, if you can see there, are narrower compared to your cards that are a little bit more wider. When you have see the top and bottom, your cards are wider there and they're a little bit shorter on the either side. So, but for me, I don't think I'm going to bother you with measurements because that you're not going to... My American friends don't know what this is, but so the panel that we've got here is 14.1 by 9.7. The white panel is just 14.4 by 10. That's purely for my Aussie friends. Sorry, American friends. We've got some gold glitter here, and I'm just using a little pokey tool to push that around. I thought about putting some string, so it's like air quotes hanging, but a lot of them don't have that these days, so we are purely just going to just have it up on our wall, air quotes again. I wanted to put a little bit of these hearts around our frames just to blend it all, tie it all in. It just needed a little something. And that's my card. I hope you like it. I hope you don't mind my rambling on a little bit. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Bye.